What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, the 26th of April, and we are live. In case we haven't met, my name is Yanni Burmeister, and to my left, your right, is Richard Lellies, aka Richie
Howdy.
the Rig. We are head coaches of Unity Gym and the Unify Movement System, where we turn driven people just like you into strong, flexible, fit athletes. Now, um, how are you, Richard?
Great. Great, Bono. Thank you very much. I'm very good.
I'll explain these glasses. I've got an issue with my eye. I've got a corneal abrasion, and it's just giving me a little bit of trouble. And my eye looks a little bit puffy today, so I thought I'd cover it up with a pair of Bono glasses. These are actually blue blockers, and I know everyone out there, you're not meant to wear them in the morning during the day. I'm not wearing
Yep.
them to block the blue light at this stage. I would do it in the evening. So don't send me a million messages saying I'm doing it wrong. I do know how to use them. Uh, Today we got a really good discussion, and this has come off the back of a question from a recent tribe member who's just joined with us. And we're going to continue this discussion tomorrow when we get Phil White from ADPT Physio on as well, because he's going to be able to give some insight from a physiotherapist's perspective. Today, we're going to kick things off by discussing what the most important element of a beginner program should look like. What the critical box that must be ticked, and this comes off the back of probably an accumulation of over 60 years experience training people in the health and fitness industry. By that, I mean myself for almost 20 years, Rad for about 15 years, Richard for about 10 years, Phil for over 10, 15 years, and his business partner, Nilesh, for over 15 years training professional athletes. All of that accumulated has gone into the principle that we're going to talk about today, and it is very, very important. Now, before I do that, I'm just going to click over to YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, please, please, please smash that like button. It really does help the channel. And of course, subscribe if you like listening to us chat about cool topics every day, and also release really great exercise videos like our shoulder uh, um, rehab video that we've done recently that's kicking off with a bit of love. We do exercise videos and all sorts of stuff like that, and also these daily chats and podcasts where we interview really cool people, influential people in the fitness space. Anyway, so what we're talking about today is what we call phase 1 to 3 of the UMS program. It is the number one goal, and it's often asked why we don't uh, do all these deeply thorough assessments of people when they come into the program initially, which we used to do. We used to spend a lot of time doing physical assessments of people. And then we changed that up after about 10 years in operation, or maybe more, maybe 15 years in operation as personal trainers, because what we found was that when you run physical assessments over an untrained individual, you get an abundance of data, too much data, and you can end up with analysis paralysis because you kind of think, wow, where do I go from here? And after working as partners with the guys from ADPT Physio, they deliver the athlete experience to everyday people. And both of the guys had extensive experience training elite level athletes. Um, I watched and noted that the majority of what they did when they worked with someone who had come in with an injury was they spent a couple of sessions not in a physio clinic like you would expect, but out on the gym floor. And what they were doing was optimizing technique, or re-establishing neural connection or coordination with an area of the body. Like, for example, if the shoulder becomes compromised, then they would work on retraining the scapular stabilizers and the shoulder stabilizers, the inner unit, and then optimizing technique of the movement patterns for the outer unit, like the bench press, the shoulder press, things like that. And it was a very different and unique, I guess, strategy for a physiotherapist when I'm used to seeing them mostly do, manipulation and massage and hands-on therapy, but it worked really, really well. And so we sort of looked at and evaluated what we were doing and thought maybe we need to spend, maybe there's something in here, and maybe we need to spend more time rather than assessing and getting this abundance of information and kind of ending up with analysis paralysis, not knowing where to take someone. Maybe we reserve that for the trained individual who's achieved proficiency in movement, in fundamental movement patterns already, because then when you assess, you get very, very specific data, and it's really easy to apply to someone's training program. And instead, in the first phases of one's program, we just optimize technique, like these professional physiotherapists are doing with their athletes. And the results we got were really good. You know, we get people in, we have a series of fundamental movement patterns that we want to take people through, like a squat, like a deadlift, like a bench press, that are the biggest bang for your buck exercises. But when done incorrectly, can really, really lead someone astray, if not injure them. And, you know, this was supported by a lot of data that sort of shows that consistency initially is going to, in an untrained individual, is going to produce an astronomical initial strength and flexibility result. And all you need to do is manage load accordingly and make sure that they're optimizing technique so that they don't hurt themselves. And you get this, it's well documented 30% increase within the first sort of 12 weeks of someone's training. And you never get that result again. You get massively diminishing returns as you become more and more experienced and well trained. And anyone who's been training for years and years, decades even, will know this. So yeah, we went back to the drawing board and completely redesigned our program. And we still, of course, use an assessment criterion later down the track. But initially, for our phase 1 to 3 UMS program, it's all about technique optimization, and we manipulate loading variables each 4-week phase to make the program a little bit more difficult. Okay, cool.
Eliza's back.
Sorry,
Wants to
my
say hi.
son, my son. No matter how hard I've got my kids at home today, no matter how hard I try, they are going to come and distract me. Um, so yeah, it's super super important that people, I think, start to rethink this approach. You know, it's really really important. Richie, what have you got to add? I'm being distracted here. Help me out.
Yeah, I think it's important to highlight like whatever your goals are, whether it's rehabilitation, like we're talking about with Phil and ADP physio, um, or whether it's muscle gain or strength gain, or even weight loss. Like the technique is like the most important thing to really think about and master first before you start going down the avenues of progressive overload too deep, like volume, sets, reps, weight, because there can be so much achieved in just optimizing how you're doing something and the way you're doing it, and being really clear on what your goals are in the first place as well, because that is ultimately going to dictate your technique and how you optimize it as well. Like a power lifter is going to squat differently to a weightlifter or a bodybuilder, or just a general population person is going to squat differently to a power lifter because they have different goals. Like it just comes down to like understanding what your goals are and how you're going to optimize your technique for them. Um, regardless of weight, regardless of reps, regardless of how many sets, how many exercises you're doing, the number of which, like it's that technique, number one, I'd say.
Yeah, and person to person is going to squat differently because of the ergonomics of their body, the length and differences in their bone structures and things like that. And this is what technique optimization is all about. It's not if fundamental movements are not a one size fits all. So you have to figure out what's best for you, and that's not only based on the design of your body, the pitch of your acetabulum in your pelvis, or the length of your femur in relation to your tibia and fibula, whether you've got long legs and a short torso or vice versa. All these things change the way it looks for you and your body's interpretation of these movements. And that's so when I say technique optimization, I'm not saying reform to the norm. I'm saying figure out the best way for you to do it
Yeah.
to maximize your strength and flexibility injury free, but also to bank enough reps so that it becomes just an autonomous movement pattern that you don't have to think about anymore. So when it comes time to start overloading with loading variables and things like that, that all you've got to focus on is managing the load and timing your failure and all those sorts of things so that you get the most out of each workout and remain injury free.
Yep.
But what I want to press upon people is that you get so much benefit out of this. And it doesn't matter what sport or what your goal is. Like you said, Richard, whether it's weight loss or powerlifting, optimization of the fundamental movement patterns are going to be of huge benefit
Yep.
to you, and they're going to complement your goal, because we all know that strength training is paramount to a weight loss program. Why? Because it upregulates metabolic function and makes sure that as you lose weight, you're not losing muscle mass at the same time. We've spoken about that a myriad of different times in different podcast episodes. So, I think we can rule that argument out. We've won that argument. Strength training is absolutely critical to a weight loss program. So, optimizing your form in the biggest bang for your buck strength training exercises is absolutely critical too. So, that's for weight loss. And now if you think about any sport other than maybe curling in the Winter Olympics, where it's very unphysical, my knowledge of it is anyway, but it doesn't matter whether you're a CrossFitter, a powerlifter, an Olympic weightlifter, a football player,
Mm.
a rugby player, a tennis player. Optimizing strength and flexibility is going to improve your load capacity so that you become more resilient to injury. So, and that's the number one goal, right? You want to be able to go and take to your sporting field or
Mm.
court or whatever it is that you do, and perform at your best without the risk of injury, or at least mitigating the risk of injury. And you want to be faster, you want to be more powerful, you want to be more resilient. And so this concept that we're teaching here, that we're trying to convince you of, is absolutely critical. It's so important, and it is a very, very common thing that people will join our program and say, "Oh, I want I want to be assessed, and I want to have something customized for my specific
Yep.
needs." Well, your specific needs are to learn the fundamental movement patterns, and there's about 8 or 9 of them. We're talking squat, bend,
Yep.
lunge, horizontal push, horizontal pull, vertical push, vertical pull.
Mm.
To optimize those movement patterns based on your body's shape and your current strength, flexibility, and injury history. Have you got calcification in your left ankle because you've rolled that ankle really badly, having a
Yep.
fall? Or, do you have something that we need to sort of work around and improve? So all these little factors come into it. And that is the way that the program is going to be customized to you. We're going to be teaching you how deep you should go based on where you're at right now, what weight you should do, all of these sorts of things. But do you need to do different movements to everybody else?
Yep.
Not when you're optimizing these movements. You're going to probably be better at some than some others,
Yep.
but that's okay. The goal initially is just optimize these movements, because once you can do these movements, once you master these movements, uh, the sky's the limit. You can apply that to almost any sort of training program, and it's going to benefit any sort of program. Getting stronger in all of those joints, in all of those movement patterns, is going to make you a better runner. It's going to make you more resilient. It's going to make you a better climber. It's going to, it even makes you better at yoga. We have yogis who come in who hit a plateau, and then we take them through the UMS, and they go, my God, in only a couple of months, I'm doing movements in yoga that I've never been able to do before, and it's
Yep.
because, yeah, we balance their strength, flexibility, and optimize their movement. It's a very, very powerful, very, very important initial strategy. And, the way we do this in UMS, if we just sort of give a little teaser away, or lift the curtains, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, is that we have a group, a social group, where people post videos of themselves doing their workouts. We teach them how to do that. We use tools. We show them how to use little Joby tripods, and they set their camera up and they film themselves doing the movements. And then every day, immediately after we're on here, we jump in and we coach them and we review their videos and we give them feedback. And even if it's not your videos being reviewed, you learn a truckload. People say they learn more from the other people's videos being reviewed than their own sometimes, you know. And it's a really really integral part of the process of what you would say customizing the program to you. You've got myself, Richard, Rad, and Phil on Wednesday, um, providing you feedback specific to your body, specific to your needs, specific to your body's interpretation of these fundamental movement patterns that we're optimizing initially, and it's a
Yep.
very, very powerful system. It really, really helps people unleash their inner athlete and optimize their performance. I think I think it's the best system, but I'm biased. What do you think, Rich?
Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of people out there have this idea of customized programs, as in like it looks radically different from the person next to them, and I think that's a misconception on like what strength training should be. Like person A and person B should be so much different, and in reality, it's not the case. There are subtle differences between A and B, and sometimes they're going to be a large difference, but it's not often that big that it needs to be a completely different exercise, unless of course there is like a limiting factor, like one person is missing one of their legs. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a massive difference between A and B before a complete program overhaul is done, and it's
I
quite
think it
often.
probably
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. I think it probably stems from bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is
Mm,
very much, I need to bring up these muscles because they're lacking on my physique. And you're
yep.
trying to reform your physique
Yep.
to a standard that's going to be judged well when you stand on stage, which is very relevant for that sport.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so you need to have a coach who's walked that walk before, who says, okay, you need bigger lats, you need bigger delts, you need
Yep.
bigger biceps. So we're going to focus on that, prioritize that in this program phase and bring those muscles up. And that makes a whole lot of sense. But when you're
Yep.
talking about optimizing one's physical performance to create a foundation that can be deployed into any sport or just life in general, to be just to be better, a better
Yeah.
human, an optimized
Yep.
human, faster, stronger, fitter, more flexible, then I think things change. Like you can benchmark and you can say, all right, we know that the squat and the deadlift are the absolute grandfather and grandmother of human strength. They're going to
Mm,
develop overall functional strength better than any other movement. And we know that if we apply that same logic to the upper body, the bench press, the bent over row or bench pull, the chin up, and the overhead press are going to do the same. We know that if you want maximal speed strength, then you need to start moving into Olympic lifting, clean and jerk and snatch. And that takes a lot of technique optimization. And if you want to be a power lifter, of course you need to optimize bench, squat, and deadlift. And of course, even the best powerlifting coaches that I know uh, will balance the body's movement patterns from push to pull. They often say, I've often heard people like Sebastian Oreb from Australian Strength Coach say, I've improved people's bench press by getting them to do more rowing movement
mm,
patterns and
yep.
strengthening the rotator cuff with external and internal rotation, isolation movement, IR and ER. And then their bench, they bust through a bench plateau, and they were just neglecting that. We know that there needs to be anatomical structural balance. This is a,
Yep.
a concept that was popularized, I think, by the late Charles Poliquin, that we really, really prioritize in UMS because it delivers a much better physique and a much more functional body. less injury, more strength, more, and all of the above. So, yeah, it's. I think that there is that you would that I'd be interested to hear in the comments if you disagree with this logic
Mm.
and why. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what people think out there because it's certainly something that's sort of changed my outlook. When if I was to go back 15 years, for the first 5 years of my personal training career from
Yep.
2004 to 2009, I was one of those trainers who had a 6-page assessment system. I've still got it all on file. Like
I
I
saw it.
used to
I was
assess
there.
everything. Yeah, you started with us
Yep.
back then, and it used to take about 4 to 6 personal training sessions, 4 to 6 hours to get through
Yep.
all of the physical assessments. Like I used to write a novel on the person's human movement
Yep.
and everything, and it was a great way to run a business because you could show that to someone and say, look how much is wrong with you, like this is going to take a year to correct, and then they'd be like, wow, where do I sign? This guy's going to change my life. And I'm not saying that people that are assessing
Yep.
somehow ripping people off, no, not at all. But I just think that what we're doing here simplifies it a
Yep.
bit, and the results speak for themselves. Like all you have to do is look at our Google reviews and what our tribe is saying in the Facebook groups to see that it certainly works. And we have people that come from all walks of life, professional athletes through to people who have done like every other online program,
Yep.
and I mean that. We have a couple of tribe members who like who vocally document how many programs they've done and what the results are, and will say that this has produced the best results so far. So it's yeah, look, it's definitely worth considering. Definitely worth
Yep.
considering. Tomorrow, we're going to get Phil from ADPT Physio to join us, and we're going to continue this discussion, talk about why, when this is applied to physiotherapy, it works so well, and why that they have adopted this sort of approach, just so that you can hear from a slightly different perspective from ours, because they use a very similar model in their physio clinic, and not that they don't do hands-on therapy, but what I've found is that they do, like, there's a lot of sort of hands-on that really helps the body discover things and work through things, and somewhat even distract it from things, so that they take the person out on the gym floor, they can get through what they need to do without the person sort of freaking out. It's quite interesting to hear how that sort of pain science works and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I think that this is a really important concept for people to understand, and I think that a lot of people out there will get a much better result if they sort of simplify and standardize the initial phases of their training,
Yep.
focus on technique optimization, make sure that you've got someone looking at you who can help with that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rely on your gym buddy, and who's just been doing it a few months longer than you. Like, spend a little bit of time with a coach in those initial months so that you optimize your technique. It is so important. And then, yeah, you can. I think the sky's the limit. You can apply that to almost anything.
Definitely. I think that's all we got time for today. Yanni, is that
Yep,
right?
I'm about to get absolutely hammered by my 4-year-old son here. He cannot wait. So with that said, we'll see you tomorrow. We're going to continue this topic, but we're going to get the physio's perspective, which is, I think, exciting. Thanks,
All right,
Richie.
guys. Catch you
Thanks,
later.
guys.
See you soon.
See you soon.